I see some familiar faces. I get the luxury of presenting right after our CTO, our CEO, and then wherever Steve Harvey went. So I'm in a really good position today where I have no pressure on me. My name's Artin Rodriguez. Some of you might know me from previous conversations. Most recently, probably from being on the splash screen of our website, because marketing decided to do that to me, and now I'm getting recognized by everyone for that reason. So that's really fun. A little bit of history. Again, Artin Rodriguez. I'm a solutions consultant here at AppZen. So I work closely with the marketing team, with the sales team, with our clients on understanding what their business needs are and presenting what our products are doing and can do for benefits to your business. So I'm a product expert in all the things that we offer and potentially are going to offer as well. So working on that right now as we're going to be going over automating expense audits with DIY today. So you just heard a ton about that from Anant. You heard a ton about that from Kunal. What I'd like to do today is show you how that's going to work, but really get all of you engaged, understand how you would like it to work for you. So just kind of moving along. Do I have a clicker? I have a clicker, don't I? All right, does this work? Okay, so I think that you all saw this before, our safe harbor comment. This is just saying that everything I say today is subject to possible change. Now, our roadmap items are roadmap items. We typically stick very strongly to them, but sometimes things get rearranged and they get pushed out or pulled in a little bit sooner. In this case, I'm very confident we're going to be able to get this out by December. So don't hold your breath that it's not going to get finalized. So let's start here. Why are we here in general at AppZen, right? And why do we have expense management software in the first place? Most of you have probably heard this 1,000 times over. There's potential leakage in your expense management process. And the way I look at AppZen is kind of the evolution of your expense management process history. Like maybe before using Concur or Burst or Workday for expense management systems, you were using, spreadsheets, and people were stuffing receipts in their wallets and sitting funny on planes, and then they get home and then they hand them all to the manager. Expense management systems really helped the process for end users so that they don't have to carry those receipts around, they don't have to fill out those spreadsheets, and it makes it really easy for them to submit and get reimbursed, and for you as a finance team to really understand how to track all that information and send it over to your financial systems. And then when you look at AppZen, the next step in that evolution is really making it easier for you as finance teams to identify when there's potential leakage using artificial intelligence. But really, the most important thing that we're here for today is, as you can see based on all these bullet points, the last one. Most of the time, when you're aware of this stuff, you're not aware of it until afterwards. And so you're making the rules later on, after the fraud has already occurred. So we wanted to gather all of you guys here today, ladies and gentlemen, I should say, today, so that you can open the discussion up, talk about the things that you've ran into, and then how you can address it. Now, again, most of the time, these are getting modified after it occurs. But all that said, that's because you have to, right? You have to wait till you identify it. You have to then reach out to Concur, to Burst, to AppZen, and you have to say, hey, I found something that I want to change. How do I change that? So the process can take quite some time, and you never really get the opportunity to do it yourself. We love acronyms here, so we call it DIY. We stole that one from home improvement projects and plugged it into finance. So DIY for finance now is making this process easier for you, right? And the whole reason for it is, and we want you all to think outside of the box on this DIY idea, right? Because we've given you some examples today, but we're now opening up all of the variables that you can plug into from your expense management systems, from AppZen, from the information that we're capturing from receipts, and being able to create rules based on that information that are automatically going to get triggered and take actions for you. right? So it's really going to save you a lot of time on those standard operating procedures where you might be looking at something, sending an email to understand it, auto-approving it, or having to prove something that you know should have been auto-approved. So, with all that said, again, the new DIY service is really making it easy for you to take those abilities and create them yourself. So how many of you in here are on Concur? Okay, and so a lot of you, and I talked to Stryker a little bit about this yesterday. So, last I heard, you had to have like a master's degree to be able to create audit rules in Concur. And so what we wanted to do is make it a little bit easier for you. So we're not replacing the Concur audit rules by any means. Those are still going to be intact. They're very strong rule-based audit rules so that, things just can't get submitted in general. But what we're being able to offer is an easier user experience for both your end users and for you as finance teams in creating these processes, which means that you have some hard rules in your expense management system today that stop the expense report from being submitted. Well, you still want to catch that stuff, but you don't need it caught at that employee user experience level because maybe it was a completely legitimate expense and the manager needed to see it or something along those lines, but they're hitting this hard stop, they're having to make changes on that, and then they're having to resubmit it until they find a way to get that expense report through. Well, using the DIY capabilities, you'll be able to create those kinds of rules in AppZen so they're not creating hard stops in your expense management system, but you're still aware of it and you get to determine, is this something that is going to stop and get rejected, or maybe go to a manager for approval, or maybe just send an email or a Slack communication directly over to that employee so you don't have to. So again, standard operating procedures that you would typically take time out of your day to handle, now you're going to be able to create using our DIY service. So we'll jump in and go over to the demonstration side, but before I do, how many of you have had to reach out to AppZen and say, hey, I would like this enabled, or I would like something like this changed, can you do this? Everyone? Some of you? No, I know you have. But the bottom line is now you won't have to necessarily reach out to AppZen to create these automations. Now, I've come up with a few examples that I wanted to showcase because these are some of the really common examples that we hear from clients on like, hey, can we do this? Where previously you might have had to reach out to your client success manager, reach out to support, or go to the app store and enable one of our mastermind models. Now with DIY, you're going to be able to go in and create those yourselves. So before I jump into those examples, again, I don't need a master's degree to do this. It's going to be really simple to come in and create these, right? So you can go in, you can hit create, and you can see right here from the drop down. So this is where you're choosing the action, when this happens. So you can see when the expense report needs approval before auditor review. So I can click on that. And again, you can see all of the different things that you can choose from. Anything on the expense report header, anything on the expense line level. You'll even be able to pull from the receipt information. So if there's a keyword that you want us to look for on the receipts and you want it to trigger a certain action, you'll be able to take those and create that action here. So here in is personal, I select true, and then down over here is where the standard operating procedure occurs. So auto approve this risk in this case where it's a personal transaction, and so on and so forth. So over here you can see that you can create automated messages automatically. So whereas before you would have to use the request more information tool, now you can have an automatic email going over to those employees and you can customize what that email says using DIY. So before I move on, I want to pause there. Is there, oh, by the way, just as we kind of go through this, I'd like to call this out. because this is opening up so many different opportunities for you. You can see you can send these emails, but you'll also see that you can send Slack messages or Teams messages. So other easier ways to communicate with your teams when there's something possibly wrong with their expense report, or you need more information, or you just want to inform them of what's actually going to happen with that report. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions? No. So it's all and. So you're saying like, if the expense type is X or it's also X, not and, because then it would have to be both. I don't have one of my product team members in here. I don't know if it's going to have the ability to have or in there, but I will look into that for you. That's a good question. Anyone else? And I believe that's going to be put into packages. I don't know what the pricing model looks like. I don't know if it's like we enable Mastermind altogether. Imran, do you have any idea on that end? That's still something that you would want to discuss with your client success manager or account executive, and they'll be able to give you more details on that. I believe it comes down to what package you have with AppZen on how many you can have, and if there's a lift on if you create more. Yeah, please, by all means. No, it's a good call out. So you can actually layer on top of existing models, right? So if something is high risk, and I actually have a perfect example of that, like right over here. This one is if an expense report is audited and the employee is above a certain level, right? This would have actually gotten flagged for high risk because they upgraded their flight or they upgraded their hotel or they upgraded their car rental. So normally it would get flagged, but now you can go in and you can create criteria that says if the, and this incorporates the payload that comes over from Concur. So we'll know the employee levels. So we'll know if they're above, and in this case you can see over here is greater than or equal to 9. So if this employee goes in and creates an expense report, they upgrade their airfare, those might be getting called out as false positives for you right now because you're always approving it for C-level executives to say, you know what, you're allowed to travel business class and first class whenever you want. So now, instead of that actually occurring, you can set the precedent right over here that when that happens, on top of the risk that we already have with the previous model for high risk on upgrades, it will change the risk to low, and then also send an email or Slack notification. But you can add and remove those criteria in. I still want to look into that or question though. That's a good one. Yeah, of course. It does. It does. So I think that when I showed the previous one, you can see, so expense report header, expense report line details, it will include the custom field. So anything that's coming over in that payload from Concur through our API connection, we should be able to have a rule created. I discussed that because I know that previously we weren't able to look at comments or we weren't able to look at business cases. And one of the things that I wanted to validate with my product team was, can we include those in a DIY function? Like if they add a comment that says, if this comment is here, auto approve, even if the risk is something along those lines. So yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it's going to show everything available in the payload. right? Because another example, I have a client that I'm working with right now that's in the healthcare provider industry, and they don't allow their employees to buy gifts for healthcare providers. The current model that we have only flags healthcare providers that haven't been selected as healthcare providers in their expense management system. But because we're bringing over when it's created in their expense management system as an HCP, we're now able to flag that for them. Anytime it's an HCP and the expense type is gift, flag for high risk. And as we're talking about this, just know in the next session, which is immediately following this and has me here as well, we're going to be talking about how we can incorporate all of this stuff into employee workflows and manager workflows, which is, I'm sure, going to be a really hot topic. So another one over here. Yeah, go for it, please. So when we bring the information over from Concur, you have it set up in your system that attendee type is healthcare provider from, say, MedPro or something along those lines. We know that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it. Over here. Yep, that's the plan. Right now, you see Slack on our drop down over here. You see that we can actually incorporate it into Slack, but the goal is to have the most common ones available. If there is something that you don't see available in the DIY function, we should still be able to do it with Mastermind, which is a little bit more in-depth than what we're offering on the DIY side. All right, how am I doing on time over here? What? Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the examples that I was just going to share. So thank you for calling it out. It's there's two examples that I hear from almost all of our clients. This one is a great example because people incidentally or intentionally use their corporate credit card to buy socks or upgrade their airfare, whatever it might be. So we actually had someone, and this is something that we have available today as a mastermind app for one of our clients, but now you're going to be able to use DIY to create this. So what it means is that when someone uses their corporate credit card and it turns out to be a personal expense, you can automatically have an email go over to them saying, personal expense is auto-approved, but will be deducted from your biweekly paycheck. So that's what our other client does, but you can decide what you want that messaging to say. The email can go out to multiple people. So in their case, it goes both to the individual and to the finance team so that they know to deduct it from their bi-monthly paycheck. So now instead of you having to send that communication to multiple people, the AI will automatically do that for you. You're looking for that one? Good. And then the other one, so thank you for calling that one out. And then the receipt type mismatch. Now, I can't think of a customer who hasn't asked about this. And this can be a very ambiguous challenge because expense types are very specific to every client. But we've recently developed this model that allows our AI to check if the receipt is actually the same expense type that was selected in the expense report, right? So this is something that typically managers are looking over or supposed to look over, or the final approver, whoever's processing those reports, and it has to get rejected back to the employee so that they can update the expense type. So now our AI can actually look at the receipt and see, okay, they selected airfare as the expense type, but this is clearly a car rental. Or they selected miscellaneous as the expense type, and this is a meal. So why are they actually doing that? And so in those circumstances, again, you can send a notification back to the employee. You can reject the report automatically so that they have to update the expense type and then resubmit it. Then when they resubmit it, it won't get flagged again. So now we're helping with that finance side so that you're getting the right general ledger codes into your financial system. Yeah. Oh, sure. Create a second DIY, you mean? Like, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, let me look. So again, expense type is not, I don't see a way of adding an or here. And so that's, yeah. And Imran, on the AP side, do we have the ability to add an or comment into the DIY stuff? Do you know? Yeah. I'm going to take that one to Ganesh and Kunal and ask them about it because it is very important so that you can have like skip steps, so to speak. All right. I don't think I have any other examples over here, but with the time that we have left, I'd love for you all to chit chat and say, okay, what else? What else can we do with DIY? What else would be important for us? So, does anyone have any thoughts on like, what's going to be a really good use of this for my system? Maddie, right? All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. You got it. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. All of those things are completely doable. That's good. That's why I'm here. Go for it. Yeah. Yeah. So if the expense report is, if the expense type is X and the risk is this and it's auto approved, also send an email. So you'll be able to use the add function down on. So if we go through and click into this. So you'll be able to hit the add button down over here because you can have as many actions taken that are available in that the standard operating procedure section. So what else do I want to have happen? Send a Slack message, send an email message, send a Teams message, contact their husband. I don't know. Mm-hmm. No. And hang tight because the workflow steps are going to be even. So it uses the same kind of framework for workflows, which we're going to talk about in our next session. So you'll be able to actually get additional context and information using the next tool that we're going to show you today. This side of the room, I feel has like been quiet. Any? Yeah, go for it.
As part of the email notification,
Mm-hmm.
can you embed a link to
You can embed anything you want. It's just sending an email notification. So if you put the URL in there, should just send it through. Yep. All right, so we're just out of time. Has this been helpful for everyone? Yeah? Are you all excited about this? Making your lives a little bit easier? All right, good. I'm glad to hear it. Stick around for those of you that want to hear about the next topic, which I had them do this back to back because they really tie together well. So, and the next topic is something that's been asked about from our clients for years. So we're really excited about it.